Welcome and thank you for attending this morning's Green Apartment Living virtual workshop. I'm Nikki Gio and I work at the City of Vancouver, one of the cities partnering with the Clark County Green Neighbors program to bring you this webinar series. This partnership is committed to providing resources and support to property managers and values the quality of life of many Clark County residents who live, work, and play at apartment complexes, condos, townhomes, and other multifamily communities. This webinar series is aimed at bringing experts on hot topics for greener apartment living right to your desk. We gathered these topics from a survey of apartment managers, and we're excited to kick off the series this week with tree care expert tips with Jessica George from the City of Vancouver. We'll hear more about Jessica, more from Jessica on tree care with a time for questions. So feel free to put your questions in the chat as we go along. We'll wrap up with a short evaluation at the end on what you learned today. The evaluation is really important to help us gauge the success of the webinar series, and we're grateful for your responses. The questions will be paired with a before and after, so please read them carefully. They're not duplicates. All right, Jessica has been with the City of Vancouver since 2008 as the Education and Outreach Coordinator for our Urban Forestry program. She previously worked for Clackamas County, managing a job training program for at-risk teens, focusing on environmental restoration on county lands. She is an ISA certified arborist, and her current work with Urban Forestry includes coordinating education and outreach, as well as managing volunteer programs, organizing community events for urban forestry, including the Tree Stewards Training, Tree Talk workshops, Arbor Day celebration, and the Old Apple Tree Festival. And with that, I will turn it over to Jessica.
Thank you for having me today. I will share my screen and we can get started. Does that look okay? All right, thank you. So today I'll be talking about trees and landscapes at multifamily homes across Vancouver and Clark County. If there are questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box throughout, and we also will answer at the end. So today, briefly, our agenda, we'll talk about our community forest, the benefits of it, why it's important. We'll discuss tree permits throughout the city as well as in the county, working with professionals and how to hire them and specific questions to ask. And then if you're ready to plant trees, planting them and proper care for trees. So this is an aerial view of the city of Vancouver. It was captured in 2011 through a tree canopy study. And what we see here are all of the neighborhoods broken out and color coded. And the color coding is per the tree canopy throughout each neighborhood. And I will add on to this, this is not throughout unincorporated Clark County, this is just the city of Vancouver, but the unincorporated areas of Clark County are looking pretty similar to the city of Vancouver, especially as development continues to impact our urban forest. What we found out from this study is that the city of Vancouver has an 18.6% tree canopy cover. So the tree canopy is looking at the stem of the tree, the branches of the tree, and then the leaves of the tree. This is captured during the summer when all of the leaves are on. And so that 18.6% tree canopy cover is throughout the city. And then there's all the rest of the parts of the city, all of that infrastructure that we need in an urban area, the roads, the parking lots, the buildings with roofs on them, the access to our urban areas. We know from community forests, American forests, excuse me, society that a 40% tree canopy cover is recommended and achievable for a healthy Pacific Northwest city. So again, this is breaking down just the city of Vancouver, but the outlying areas in Clark County are pretty similar as well, that are developed and unincorporated at this point. So we know that that left-hand graph is showing that the majority of the existing tree canopy that we have is on private property, private lands. So that single family, multifamily lands, as well as some business. Then public lands, so city-owned lands and schools, those public lands consist of 22.5% of the existing tree canopy. And then the right of way, so that area in the frontage of all properties between the streets and about 10 to 15 feet in from the curb where the utilities run, as well as sidewalks and other urban infrastructure. That area currently has a 14.3% tree canopy cover. We call those street trees that are planted in that area. So if you look on the right-hand side, the graph there, that shows that we have a potential throughout the city for almost nearly 50% tree canopy cover. Again, the majority of what's possible to plant more trees, again, is on private land. And so there's a real opportunity to partner with those private landowners to plant more trees. There's also great opportunity on public lands, which is great. We can plant at parks, which are city owned, other public owned facilities, partner with schools and other agencies to plant more trees in those areas as well. And then there's also more opportunity to plant those street trees in the right of way to really maximize the benefits. So continuing on with a bit more information that we learned about our existing tree canopy and why we are where we are. We're at that 18.6%, fairly low, whereas we could have more, but we understand why we're low. We're an urban area. We're a rapidly growing city and urban area, and we understand that the majority of the trees tree loss or canopy loss throughout our community is due to development. We're losing usually our large native trees and buildings, schools, grocery stores, roads, all of the infrastructure that urban areas need, but we aren't replacing them with those large mature trees, and also the trees take a long time to grow. Other reasons that we're losing trees are due to natural reasons, insects, disease. As we noticed this recent storm event that we had, there was some pretty significant, actually not terribly significant, but some tree failure and some partial tree failure. And so really addressing those concerns and issues so we can really have a healthy urban forest is important. And then trees being removed by property owners for various reasons. If you notice this graph as well, you'll see that the categories are generally trees declining, tree canopy declining. We're not gaining in tree canopy in any area except for in the right of way. We are increasing our street trees throughout the city, which is a great benefit for all of us. Those street trees are helping to provide shade, slow the storm water from flowing into our storm drains and rivers, and helping to clean that rainwater, stormwater as well. So jumping into that, we know where we're at with our tree canopy cover. We are, we're pretty low for a tree canopy cover. We understand why. We know where we should be and where we can be, which is, nearly 50% tree canopy cover. So why does it matter? What are the benefits that trees provide us? Well, when we're looking at a single tree in our urban forest, we see the many benefits that they provide: environmental, social, economic benefits. But just looking at some of these environmental benefits, a tree is a piece of our urban infrastructure that is going to provide many air and water quality benefits that are imperative, especially in our urban areas where we have a lot of traffic. We have all of our stormwater can be quite dirty and polluted as it runs into our creeks and streams and waterways. So that the trees are helping to reduce that erosion, reduce the runoff, whether it's stopping it because the tree is infiltrating that precipitation, or slowing it so our storm events don't quite have that peak, which causes flooding and erosion as well. Trees create cooling effects not only around them, so as they transpire, kind of like they're sweating essentially, they're cooling the air around the tree, which on hot summer days is very important and significant. But also placed in the right location, trees are cooling buildings and shading roadways and sidewalks, which trap that heat and create the urban heat island effect, which in effect is going to increase urban urban temperatures by 10 degrees. And on hot summer days, and for many vulnerable populations, that can be dangerous. That is dangerous health effects that 10 degrees impact has on people. And trees are capturing not only the trees, but also trees' roots and the soils are capturing that carbon, which is important in our urban and rural communities throughout. So trees in our watershed, so you have your one tree, but then you have, you know, your many trees, your forest of trees. Our watershed trees, watershed-wide trees are important. Upland trees in our neighborhoods, you know, street trees, trees near our houses, lowland trees or riparian area trees, trees that are going to be around water facilities or streams and creeks, are all providing various benefits. And so what we're doing when we're working with property owners is making sure that uh, and making sure that their trees are healthy, making sure that their trees are really maximizing the benefits that they will provide the building and the residents, and that the landscapes are healthy and taken care of. And so things that property owners can do to ensure a healthy watershed are to reduce lawns when possible. It takes time to mow a lawn. And it's, you know, assuming that it's a gas powered lawnmower, you're putting carbon into the atmosphere. If you remove some of that high maintenance lawn, you're reducing time and carbon input. And then planting trees when possible, again, to get the shading benefits and air and water quality benefits. Mulching, using organic mulch, fertilize if necessary. Trees really don't need fertilizer. Some shrubs may, depending on what your regimen is, but mulch. It keeps the lawnmowers away from the trunks of the trees, keeps the weeds and grass down, and provides nutrients for the soils. And preserving trees when possible. We have large trees in our landscapes. We live in an area where we can grow large trees, so just making sure that they're healthy and preserving them to maximize the benefits. And then when possible, reducing the pesticide use, because really everything that we do in our landscapes will eventually run down into those streams and waterways, and we want to make sure that they are not polluted. We want to reduce that pollution, and we do have an impact in our landscapes. So our urban forest is important. Trees are part of our urban infrastructure. And so we need to understand how to build them into it in a way that is healthy and safe, and that the community can get investments in. There are the environmental benefits of trees. I mentioned the air and water quality benefits. Of course, there's habitat benefits of trees. There's many benefits. In addition to that, there are the economic benefits of trees. There are many studies that have shown that people shopping will spend more time and more money, 12% more money in shopping districts that have nice tree-lined streets and landscapes. Studies also show that people will pay more for houses, for homes in well-landscaped and tree-lined neighborhoods, and renters will pay more money for renting each month in well-landscaped, manicured locations with mature landscape and trees. So really the economic benefits are there and speak for themselves. And then there are the health and social benefits of trees. Trees are imperative for people to have access to, especially in our urban areas. When access to parks, open areas, and natural areas isn't always equitable across our cities. So even having those tree-lined streets or a small grove of trees in an apartment complex, access to that is beneficial for our mental, emotional health. There are 3 links to websites that have really great resources here at the bottom of this page. I would encourage anyone to check them out. So, urban forestry. In the city of Vancouver, the city has an urban forestry program, and outside of just the city of Vancouver, the community recognizes that trees are important. So wherever you're living at, a healthy urban forest is very important to have. Part of what makes a healthy urban forest is maintaining and protecting what we have. As I mentioned, it takes a long time for a tree to mature and maximize those benefits. There's always room, as we also saw, to plant more trees. And so there are various planting opportunities, tree planting opportunities at reduced cost out there, but really making sure that we get the right tree in the right place to reduce future conflict is important throughout our communities. And then education on proper tree care. We don't know what we don't know until we learn. So hopefully there will be an opportunity to learn a little bit about hiring a professional today, tree planting and tree care. So we will get into that now. So permits. Um, and this is part of the protecting and preserving what we have. A piece of that is to require permits for planting, removing, and pruning trees. So this is specifically, street tree permits are specifically to the city of Vancouver. If you are in any unincorporated Clark County, these do not apply, and other communities in Clark County may have their own type of street tree permits. You will need to check with them. For the city of Vancouver, street tree permits, again, street trees are trees planted in the right of way, about 10 to 15 feet in from the curb. Give us a call if you have any questions. But permits are required for planting, removal, and major pruning. The cost of the permit is $5. We don't want to inhibit anyone to be able to access a permit and manage their trees on their public right-of-way property. So for pruning, if you're removing a significant part of the canopy, greater than 15%, or large diameter branches, then a permit is required, as well as working with an approved certified arborist. We provide a list of arborists that have that approved street tree pruning accreditation, and really that's ensuring that they are using proper pruning standards when they're pruning those street trees. Street tree permits are required if you're pruning roots. So that often comes up when there is root conflicts with infrastructure such as sidewalks, driveways, other infrastructure in that area. And then if you are removing a tree, of course, a permit is required. And then we ask for you to call us if you're planting a tree. We will work with the property owner on ensuring that the right tree is planted in the right location to avoid those future infrastructure conflicts. Private tree permits. So again, this is specific to the city of Vancouver. The first part is for private tree permits. So any trees that are on private property outside of the right of way, those trees require a permit if they are on undeveloped or parcels that are being developed. Private tree permits are required. They're also required on any zoned commercial, industrial, or multifamily. So all of those multifamily apartment dwellings will require permits for removing and planting any trees on that private property. And then if it's a residential single family, then if it's a large oversized lot that can be subdivided, or if the lot was built after 97, then residential single family parcels need a permit. Sounds like I just said every single tree needs a permit, but really the majority of private trees don't need permits because they're on single family properties. With that being said, I do want to remind the audience here today that that multifamily properties will need permits. So our office will work with you. If you have any questions about the process, we are happy to meet you on site or have a phone call and discuss. So this last part for private tree permits does actually apply to not only City of Vancouver, but Clark County as well. Private tree permits on any zoned lot are required if the area is in a critical area. So if it's a steep slope, if it's a wetland, if it is in a riparian area, so maybe along Salmon Creek, for example, those are all areas that are designated as sensitive lands and require permits for removal. In addition, the Oregon white oak tree, Quercus garryana, requires permits for removal across the state of Washington. The state of Washington lists the Quercus garryana as a critical area habitat in and of itself because of the high habitat value for that tree. So moving on. So working with professionals. There are some things that individuals can do, when caring for their trees, but oftentimes it gets to the point where it is going to be working with a tree care professional to manage and service your tree. So some advice that we have, which also is on our website at cityofvancouver.us/urban forestry, are tips such as get several bids. The tree care bids that you will get will be vastly different, and require quotes that will give you a paper trail that you can then follow up on with these specific companies. Make sure that any company that you're working with has an ISA certified arborist on staff, if not several. ISA is the International Society of Arboriculture and the governing body for tree care professionals across America and across the world. And as you're going through this due diligence of getting bids, check references, especially, does this company work with multifamily units? There's some unique circumstances there that need to be addressed, and does this company understand that? Ensure that the company is licensed, bonded, and insured. That's for your protection. That's for your property's protection. So just take the time to do that. Our website does have links to the local and state agencies that track licensing and insurance and bonding. Also, you should ask the company for that information. And also, when working with a professional, make sure that they know what they're doing, and don't just assume that they are going to be taking the tree's best interest in mind. That is not always the case. So make sure that you specify no topping. Topping is an indiscriminate removal of branches of a tree. It's done for various reasons. All of those are non-beneficial. Topping doesn't work. Topping creates more hazards. It's expensive. You have to have the tree care I should not even call it a tree care person because they're not caring for the tree. You have to have the tree maintained and topped like this every year, which you shouldn't have to have your trees pruned that often. That's expensive and unnecessary and not healthy for the tree. And so really what you're looking for working with a professional is that they are following pruning standards, just as every industry has standards, whether it's an auto mechanic or a dentist. So does a tree care industry, and they follow the ANSI A300 standards. Not only are there pruning standards within this document, but also safety standards. The list goes on. So it's very extensive, but some key tips for you if they're following these standards, then it's a bit of comfort knowing that your trees are going to be taken care of properly. And then when working with a professional, ask questions. You're the person that is going to be seeing the landscape, understanding how people, cars, everything moves around the landscape, your landscape that you're in. So, ask questions, be a part of that long-term planning. You're in a partnership with this arborist and with this company. This picture on the right is an example of a multifamily apartment housing complex in Vancouver, and these are some mature cedar trees, and they were kind of having some sightline issues and access to some of the interior parts of the lawn areas and play area, open areas. And so it was as simple as a fix as just doing a little bit of pruning at the lower part of the canopy of the tree to open up some sight lines and to gain access and to get light down to the lower branches as well. Hardly noticeable, I'm sure, to just folks that are, living and playing around that area, but making a real difference in just the use and movement around of these trees in this area. So if you're working with a tree care provider, you have a tree care company that you're working with in long term, I'm actually going to go back to this slide and say that you may find that your landscape company is going to be different from your tree care company. Landscape companies probably come pretty often, to manage lawns, leaves. Maybe they're going to be mulching, doing addressing other pieces of the landscape. That's different from tree care. Tree care is going to happen less often. It doesn't need, trees do not need to be pruned on a quarterly basis, monthly basis, nothing like that. So likely your tree care professional will be a different company or person from your landscape company, and that is perfectly fine, and somewhat expected often. All right, so you got your tree care company, you're all set there, but you also notice an opportunity that you need to plant more trees. So we will talk about tree planting. So the city of Vancouver, as well as some unincorporated parts of southern Clark County, have a partnership with Friends of Trees. It's a great nonprofit organization that works with neighbors and the community to plant trees on private residential property. So oftentimes is residential and multifamily property, excuse me. So the trees are a screaming deal at $35 per tree. And you simply create an account online with Friends of Trees, and you are directed through the process of tree selection, ensuring right tree, right place. And then a planting date occurs where Friends of Trees coordinates a community planting event where volunteers come and plant the trees with trained leaders. So you can be as hands-off or hands-on as you want in this opportunity. Another opportunity to plant trees, and this is just within the city of Vancouver for residential and multifamily properties, to plant an approved tree from our approved list. Send in a very simple, brief application with the receipt and receive a partial refund for that tree planting. We really want to encourage tree planting and understand that sometimes the cost can be a hindrance. And so we want to make it as accessible as possible for people to plant trees. A few things to consider when planting a tree. You can just plop a tree in, but we want to reduce conflict in the future. So we really encourage, people to consider some things when planting. So first off, what are you going to plant and why? Are you interested in some screening, maybe some evergreen trees to help screen views or to screen high east winds potentially, which can help with cooling and heating costs? Or do you just want some nice flowering understory trees? The list goes on as to why you want a tree. But just getting that right tree, understanding its growing habit, understanding its needs as well as far as soil and access to light and water, all things to consider. And then feel free to check out the City of Vancouver's street tree, yard tree lists. Get some ideas. Friends of Trees has a really great online catalog of trees as well, with photos and information on each of them. Or just give us a call. We are more than happy to walk you through that, kind of narrow down some opportunities for trees that would do well in the area that you're looking to plant. Oh, this is my least favorite slide, but it's so important. I know, like, the number one tip is to don't put a lot of words into PowerPoints. Sorry. So what this is essentially is right tree, right place. When we are looking at planting trees in our urban areas, there's a lot of other stuff going on in our urban areas because we are living and working and playing next to and around these trees. So there is all of that infrastructure. So in order to reduce conflict in the future, we look at this long list of considerations to make sure that we are getting the right tree in the right place. I am not going to read through this. This is just a really good information. I'm happy to provide it to anybody that would like this as well. So these are a couple photos of examples of right tree, right place. On the left, you not only have a nice mature tree, it's providing shading to the asphalt, which is going to reduce those hot summer temperatures. Probably the cars are going to park under. I guess they have those little awnings to park under too. That helps for summer heat. But also when the leaves are on, it's helping to reduce that stormwater flow into our storm drains. And then also you'll notice around the tree, there's not grass. They mulched that whole bulb out, which is great. Not only does the lawnmower not have to figure out how to go around the tree doesn't have grass growing around it. The roots aren't competing with grass roots for water and other resources. And the mulch actually is benefiting and building the soils. So it's a nice complement and to the area and reducing mowing. On the right, a fun little pathway through some trees around apartments there. It's a dog area, so it's great that there's that dog waste station. There's a sign that talks about the dog waste station as well. Very important, but it really creates that not only environment to walk for people to walk their pets, but also there's shade. There's different types of trees. You notice there's some evergreen, there's some deciduous, so you get that year-round interest. Each of the trees has a nice mulching around it, so that lawnmower isn't going to up against the trunk of the tree and causing trunk damage, which is also great. And then that meandering path throughout. What this area in this apartment complex also achieves is that social benefits of trees or community benefits of trees, where folks are out walking their dog, walking themselves, and they bump into each other, they meet. I guess in times of COVID, you're 6 feet apart, but still you see each other and it's a community area. And so these are all really nice opportunities and examples of how to incorporate trees and landscape features into our urban natural areas and multifamily areas to create a healthy, safe living environment. So when you are looking at planting a tree, again, we're looking at right tree, right place, but now you're ready to get the tree in the ground. And this is just a very brief how to plant a tree properly. One of the main reasons that young trees, newly planted trees decline is because they're planted improperly, often too low, too deep into the ground. What you'll see there is the root crown is right at the level of the top of the soil. And that is an appropriate depth for tree planting, making sure that any packaging that the tree came in for shipment is removed, especially from the root ball and from the trunk and stem of the tree. And then getting just that native soil back in. When you dug that hole, you can put that same soil back in, no need to fertilize. The best thing to do is to do a 3-inch layer of mulch around the trunk of the tree, but ensuring that that mulch is not touching the trunk of the tree, because the microorganisms that are decomposing the mulch, the woody mulch, will decompose the live wood of the tree. So pulling that mulch back from the tree is important. Staking may or may not be required depending on if the root ball stayed intact and the environmental conditions around the tree, but just keeping that in mind as well. So getting towards the end of the presentation, I just do want to put a plug out that Urban Forestry does provide free educational tree care workshops throughout the year. Some of our most common topics include proper tree pruning, and these are preferably hands-on workshops and will be hopefully in the future at some point. Tree planting workshops, so we can actually get together, understand, get comfortable planting trees properly. Working with hazardous trees, that's the popular one. So those are looking at your mature established trees, understanding what a hazard might be in a tree, how to manage it appropriately. We do tree identification. We have tree walks, which are really nice ways just to engage with the community and engage with trees. We're always open to more workshop ideas. Not only do we host them in public areas, but when we again are able to be together, we are more than happy to come to you and your community and host workshops there as well. So our urban forest is all around us. Our urban and community forest is everywhere. We live in it. And it just looks a little different than what maybe the forest and the woods uh, looks like, because we're interacting and engaging with it every day. So it really is our responsibility to ensure that the trees throughout our communities are healthy, so that they can provide those maximized benefits for all of us throughout our communities. So we are stewards of our landscapes. So I want to thank everyone for attending today. And if there are any questions, this is a great time to ask them.